I'm just starting the live session and then we can get started. Just give me a minute.
Sure. Okay.
It's taking a bit longer to load.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, I think we are good to start now. So thank you, Sridevi Shankar Master, for taking your time and going through this particular session, the virtual book reading of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, session 5. Thank you a lot, the Master, for sharing your knowledge with us. I'm giving to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Welcome, everybody. So today is our week 5 of Monk Who Sold His Ferrari book. I know most of you, I think, are joining every week. So this is a story about a lawyer, Julian Mantle. And we went through till like chapter 7, I think, like we were halfway through chapter 7. Where the Julian talks about Yogi Raman telling him a fable, like a garden, like an extraordinary garden. And he talks about, you know, the fable, like the lighthouse, the sumo wrestler, all these like elements. So last week, when we were discussing about this chapter particularly, it was about the garden, which is like the extraordinary mind. Like, you know, the garden symbolizes our mind. And what kind of thoughts are we planting in our mind? Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they miraculous or disastrous? So how is that affecting our like personal lives? So today we will be continuing into that chapter and as well as the next chapter, Kindling Your Inner Fire. I'm going to share my screen. So Julian talks about the garden and the importance of thoughts. Like, you know, we all know how many thoughts, like on an average, we think about like 60,000 thoughts, and most of them are negative and repetitive. So he talks about like, how can we like be aware of our thoughts? And he also talks about another important concept of energy leaks. So energy leaks, you know, and lot of times, no matter like even if you don't do a lot of physical work, sometimes if you're thinking or worrying too much, automatically we feel depleted by the end of the day. We feel like we don't have enough energy. So the same thing he says, like, you know, let's take an example of a bicycle tire. Like, you know, if it's inflated, it is easy for us to go to our destination from one place to another, right? But what happens when the tire has like, you know, leaks in it? Then we cannot really go to our destination when we have like the leak in the tube of that bicycle tire. So the same way, like, you know, worry depletes our mental energy. So the more we worry about things which are not in our control, like some of the factors, some of the things, we do not have them under our control, but we still worry about them, which he calls them as energy leaks. So we have to be aware of this, like, you know, is this serving me? Like, you know, am I thinking this thought right now? If you remember from last chapter, he also, Julian mentions, we do not have the luxury of even a single negative thought. So even if a negative thought comes, we need to immediately replace it with a positive thought or a miraculous thought. So he talks about, you know, being aware of our energy leaks. And also, like, you know, it's important for the lasting personal mastery. It is important for us to step out of our comfort zone. A lot of times when we are within our comfort zone, we do things with much ease and we are very comfortable in what we do, right? If we know the things already. But when we are stepping out of the comfort zone, it's not it is not the best that we wanted to do, but at the same time, it teaches us, our brain is making those new neural connections inside when we are stepping out of the comfort zone. Our mind is making those connections and we are learning new things. So it is very important for us to, like, you know, do those things. If you are a painter or you know, if you want to do something that sometimes we are very social conscious too. Or what if I do this and what do the society think about? So if it's something that giving you a happiness and it's not harming anybody, like, you know, it's time for us to like step out of our boundaries. And another thing is take time to think and discover your real reason for being here. because and then act on it, like taking the action, like how am I going to do this like mission, what I have to do. So discovering that comes like again like coming back to meditation. When we sit in meditation, when our thoughts reduce, when our mind gets empty, obviously we have more clarity on our like on our life or on what we are doing. Is it we get intuitive because we have that clear mindset. So and also like there are a lot of times we like all these hobbies, like whether it can be painting or singing or dancing. And sometimes we think like oh, I'm working right now and I have family, I don't know if I can handle all these things. But all the time, like having the time for us, set aside some time, do the things that you actually feel happy about, like that is giving you that inner bliss. It's important for us to take time for those things. And a lot of times when we talk about meditation or these like self help things that we need to do, we hear people saying like, oh, I don't know if we have enough time for that, I don't think, I'm like too busy, I have like so much of work, or I have a family that I cannot really do these things. But taking at least 10 minutes of time to reflect upon your life, or what the things that you did in one day, like for example, today, what did I do things that really helped me, whether it helped my body, my mind, and my soul. That is the human endowment, like so just thinking about that, taking the 10 minutes of time, even just before going to bed, reflecting upon how your day was, and what can you do better, or what can you change certain things to make you happy, to make you feel happy. And like we all know, we can't like be too busy to stop for gas, because we know what happens if we like busily driving the car. The same thing with our human body. We need that pause, we need to practice that pause and reflect upon the things that we are doing. And here Yogi Raman also shares with Julian, there are three techniques that the sages of Sivana follow. One is like the heart of the rose technique, like they stare at the heart of the rose, the center of the rose, and look at the color. And even if a thought comes again, they need to redirect and like bring. So that is one of like a mind controlling technique. And the other one is secret of lake. So he talks about like the sages of Sivana, they go walk to this lake, and what they do is they visualize what they wanted in their lives. We might think, what do the sages need? Like, they're living in Himalayas. What do they don't need any material possessions, but what do they need? But what they need is like, let's say if they want to be like happy, they would envision themselves in the lake, like they would see a picture of themselves like laughing or smiling at each other, their brothers and sisters in the Sivana. Or like if like Yogi Raman says, he's a very shy person. So he visualized himself as like being a strong leader. And we know that he is the leader of the band in the beginning of the chapters, they say. So whatever they are like, they wanted to improve on, like if it's not courageous, like they think like, they visualize as if they're doing a courageous act. So that is the secret of the lake. Then Julian asks like, oh, do I have to go to a lake to do these kind of things? And then Julian says, when John asks that question, Julian says, you can do this in your own living room. You don't have to go anywhere. Just like sitting in a calmer place, visualize what you want. That's why we say meditation plus visualization equals to manifestation. So when you meditate, your mind is empty. And then after meditation, if you visualize what you want, that then you're going to manifest what you want in your lives. So those are the two techniques he talks about in this chapter as well. And the last one is opposition thinking. So what he says is like, let's say he talks to John and says like, if you are in the court, you are like, didn't have a good day. Your client was not happy with your arguments and you did not do well in your case. Then you come home, you feel very gloomy. Then what can you do? Instead of carrying that same feeling, he says like opposition thinking, where you can be cheerful, like do something that you really like at that point, or like watch something that makes you happy. Just replacing that feeling of like depressing or like gloominess with something that makes you motivate or inspire or cheerful. So just replacing it. He also talks about like, if you're like on a projector, like, on the slides, if you have a slide that comes like gloomy, immediately replace that slide with cheerful, like, just change the pictures, because that's how your mind works. Your mind can only hold one thought at a time. So if you're feeling gloomy, that's the feeling that you're going to carry the entire time. But if you like replace it with a cheerfulness, so we know the saying, fake it until you make it, right? So just, even though we are not feeling cheerful at that point, just feel it, like laugh, like, do something. People might think we are crazy. And if we do it in our own room, I'm sure, like, no, it will help us come out of that feeling. So those are the techniques that Julian shares with John. And this is like mastering our mind. That's very important. If we don't master it, then the mind controls us. If we don't control the mind starts controlling us. And the next one is like, he talks about, it's always nice to compare if there are some good things in like somebody else you want to like learn from. That's a great quality, that you want to learn something new from somebody else. But at the same time, if we start comparing our lives to somebody, or like, oh, I'm not as good as them. We are all unique in our own way, right? So he always says like true nobility lies in like being superior to your former self. Just like, am I being a better version of myself compared to yesterday to today? Am I being superior compared to yesterday to today? Just like challenge it, like we being competitive against our own selves is the true nobility. And when you consistently direct your mind to live in the present, so he talks about like, a lot of times, I don't know, like as a child or like when as a college student, when we open up the book, even for book reading, I'm improving in reading books right now. But whenever I read a book, like couple of pages, I just like fall into sleep. Like, it makes me sleepy. And like, if you're watching a movie, I don't know about everyone, but I'm like full awake and wide awake, like no matter whether it's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, it's like, we have that energy, right? So why does that happen? Like when we are reading a book or like a textbook, or like at work when you're reading a file or something, versus like if your friend comes and like, oh, let's go out for dinner, we'll be like full excited and we are full on energy, right? So how do we have that boundless energy? Then Julian says like, when you consistently put your mind to live in the present, when you are in that present moment, no matter what the clock shows the time, you will have that boundless energy. So not being in the past or not being in the future, just being in the present moment, help us have that energy. And also just like in this chapter is like ending up, and for this book, the good thing is like at the end of every chapter, they have like a nutshell, they have pictures of what the main points are. So if you have this book, or if you do not have it a physical copy, please get it in your library, or you can read it, because they do have those little pictures just as a gentle reminders for us. So again, like, the garden, which is like symbolizing our mind, what kind of thoughts are we planting in our mind? And our quality of life is equal to quality of the thoughts that we think in our day. So that's very, very important for us to be aware of our thoughts. And there are no mistakes, there are no setbacks, only opportunities and only lessons. We heard about Julian's story, like, how his heart attack has brought a huge transformation. How Malika Chand's, like, the school when it burned, how she took it as an opportunity to renovate the school. So those kind of things like help us to think like, we don't have to regret, oh, I did this mistake or I wasted this time. That's okay. It's just a lesson, and then we need to move on and not like hanging too much in that past. So moving on to the next chapter, Kindling Your Inner Fire. So this one, every chapter like almost opens up with a quote, and this is the quote that it opens with. Trust yourself, create the kind of life you will be happy to live with all your life. Make the most of yourself by fanning the tiny inner sparks of possibility into the flames of achievement, by Foster McClellan. So it's very important for us to like, sometimes these quotes like just inspire us. We know all these things, but just reading at them or looking at them makes us motivate, right? So if you strive to like, when we start helping other people, your life will be elevated. You feel more fulfilling when you start to help others. Like even a single act of kindness, kindness is always like a boomerang, right? You do a kindness act to somebody, it automatically reflects you back, or you feel that happiness. So he talks about like how to selflessly help others. And then he also talks about, when we read about other people, like, general knowledge or whatever it is, when you know about, study about other people, you become wise. But when you know about yourself, you become enlightened, which is the most important thing, right? First, we need to know about ourselves. Who am I? What am I doing? What is my purpose of life? So this chapter in the fable, the garden, and then if you remember the lighthouse where the sumo wrestler comes out. So this chapter is about the lighthouse. And lighthouse symbolizes the purpose of life. And like all of us, we all like, it's important for us to have like clear goals. Lighthouse, we know it shows the guidance, right? If like, the ships which are coming to the shore, it gives the guidance. So when we have that inner guidance within us, like, we are setting our goals, and those clearly defined goals will help us, like a lighthouse, they help us guide, because you have something to look upon and then you start working towards it. And he also talks about lasting happiness comes from steadily working to accomplish your goals and advancing the direction in the direction of your life's purpose secret, to kindling your inner fire. So when we start acting upon those small things, it can be a simple thing, like a simple goal setting thing, but it helps us, like if you have the target, it's easy for you to like, accomplish. What is my goal for today? Okay, I'm going to read like 3 pages of this book. I'm going to like, do like 30 minutes of exercise, or like 50 minutes of meditation. All those things, like, small things that we can fill up in our life, it would be very helpful for us. And like the small things automatically fall into place. And here also he says, like, you must know your life's aim, because, it is always important for us to know why we are here. What is our purpose of life? And sages call this as Dharma. In Sanskrit, it's called as Dharma, which is the life's purpose. All of us have like a mission. We all came here onto this earth planet with the specific mission. But what happens when we come and we are in our like regular like life, we just like forget why we came here, right? So that happens to even like a simple example. When you go to a store, you want like 5 things, but you see something like very attractive or like on sale, automatically you get like deviated and then go there and forget the 5 items that you need at that point, right? So it takes some time to come back to get your items. So it's like, those little deviations that we all like, we need to make sure that we have a clear no clear thing about like, what is my purpose of life? Why am I here? And also knowing our like unique sets of talents and gifts. We all have like unique sets of talents and gifts. It can be a small one or a big one, but it is important for us to like, the key is to discover them. You need to discover your talents. And how does that happen? Again backtracking to meditation, like, when you realize your inner strength, when you are sitting in silence, when you are with yourself, you will know your inner strength. So that is important for us to identify what is my set of talents and gifts that I can offer to myself and to help others as well. So this is all about like, this chapter is more about goal setting. And in January, February, I know a lot of us like make these resolutions, goal setting for ourselves, which is like really good. But, it is always important for us to continue with that momentum as well. So it says like, self-knowledge is the DNA for enlightenment. So it is very important to have the knowledge of ourselves. That's very, very important. And he talks about Yogi Raman, like, he does like a demonstration to Julian when he is in Himalayas. So Yogi Raman and Julian, when they're walking, he takes him to like this big oak tree and takes a rose out of his garland and puts on the middle of the oak tree. And then he takes his like bow and arrow and like a handkerchief and says, tie the, like asks him to close his eyes with the handkerchief. And then he starts to aim at the rose. And he asks Julian, how far am I from the rose? He says like about like roughly 100 feet. And then he tries to do it, but he just misses it, which Julian is very surprised because Yogi Raman is like really good in archery. And then Yogi Raman says, you have seen me so many times like do this. Like Julian says, you never missed even like hitting from 300 feet away. And today it's only 100 feet. Then he says, because I did not, you will never be able to hit a target that you cannot see. So if you're like, the goals are scattered, or like, you don't have a clear vision of what you want, then your mind is all scattered, right? So you need to know what your target is. So that's why he says you have to see what your target is. So that's just like a little demo they talk about in this chapter as well. And goal setting, obviously, we all know it makes our life magnificent. We feel so accomplished, even achieving like one small goal in our life, right? We feel so happy when we really accomplish that point. So it's important. Also, he talks about writing our goals, how important it is. So we all have goals, but it's also important for us to write on a piece of paper. And this one, I personally experimented when I, like in the beginning of my career. It's helped me so much, like had helped me stay on task. So every time, like, if you write your goals on a piece of paper, you are sending a red flag to your subconscious mind that these thoughts are far more important than the remaining 59,999 thoughts that we think that are negative and repetitive. So you are signaling to your mind saying, these are far more important to me than any other thing. So everybody, maybe you can try and experiment this and, write on a piece of paper your goals. It's very important. It is, I experimented it and I found it very helpful for myself. So, and it also talks about, how the human mind is the largest filtering device, which is if used properly, it filters all the unimportant things and gives you the important information you are looking at. So like I said, our mind can hold only one thought at a time. So we need to decide what kind of thoughts we want to put in there. What kind of thought am I thinking right now? So that is like our human mind. It's like it works perfectly if we use it the proper way that it should be used. So that's another thing that he talks about. Just okay, we have 5 more minutes. So 5-step method, he talks about, how we can fulfill our purpose of life. He talks about this 5-step method. First, like I talked earlier, visualizing, like forming a clear mental image of the outcome. So let's say this is an example that they gave in the book about like, if somebody wants to like lose a weight, like, lose weight, or like, how do they want to be? Like if they are in that kind of like, if they're losing, let's say 20 pounds or 10 pounds, how is their physical body looking like? So they're visualizing that. He asks John, like, how would you feel if you are like, you're exuding like energy and vitality? How would you feel? So just having that clear mental image of like what your outcome is, and then getting some positive pressure. So a lot of times, if you tell people like, hey, I'm planning to like lose 10 pounds by end of this month or something like that. So since you already told everybody, you feel that pressure inside. Oh, I already told someone that I'm going to gym every day. And if you don't show up like one or the other days, you feel accountable, right? You feel accountable and you start because I already shared with my friends and family. So maybe I need to like start working on this. So that put that positive pressure on yourself. And setting a goal with an attached timeline. So by the end of this time, like, a lot of us in our workplaces, we set up SMART goals, right? So having that SMART goals, like just assigning a timeline to it. And then he talks about the magic rule of 21. So I know Meditation Magic Lab, they did like last time with Pyramid Valley, they did like a 21-day meditation program, right? So a new behavior, like 21, it takes 21 days to a new behavior to crystallize into a habit. So he calls it as like a magic rule of 21. So do anything that you wanted to for 21 days and see how it's transforming into a habit and advancing along that path of a purpose. Like, when you start aligning your goals, automatically you will have like, what is your purpose of life? You will get that clarity. Of course, with like regular practice of meditation, we all know we can find our purpose of life. What is our why are we here on this planet Earth? What way we can share our talents and gifts with everybody, and how to selflessly serve others. So those are some like key points in this chapter. I had to each line in this book I always feel is a treasure. So please do read this book every time I mention that. So I'm going to stop share here and have any one of you if you want to share any insights or takeaways from today's session, please unmute yourself and share.
Masters, if you have any questions or if you have any feedback on today's session, please.
Eva, I think you're talking. I cannot hear you. Yeah, your voice is on. Now you are muted. You're not able to?
No, you're not able to hear you. If you have anything, you can type. I think if you have any issues, you can type.
Yeah. You're now unmuted, Hema. Maybe you need to set your headsets or something.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's best to type.
Yeah. To anybody, while Hema is typing up, do anybody have any, you don't have to share if it's like personal, but any goal setting or like, do you follow any other methods that can be helpful to share with the group, with all of us? Please feel free to share. If you do any other things other than what's mentioned in the chapter. Thank you, Kalpana ma'am. Oh, yes, Hema, like writing the goal. That's very, very helpful. It just helps us keep more focused on what we want. A lot of times we focus on, what we don't want, either unknowingly. So it's important for us to focus on what we want. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Every line in this book, I feel like, it's a treasure. Absolutely, Kalpana. Yes, I'm more than I appear to be. All the world's strength and power rests in me. You do that, Hema? You repeat that way? Awesome. Thanks, Hema, for sharing with all of us. Thank you, Hema.
Okay.
Okay.
If there is nothing, I think we can start with our meditation. So.
Sure. And Kalpana ma'am said she uses a task list every day so she can finish them. Yeah. That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Kalpana. Yes, sir, you can start the music.
Yeah. So everybody, masters, please sit in the comfortable position and close your eyes. Hope you guys are able to hear this music. Thank you, him.